Hey, welcome. What I've got going on today is I'm going to go ahead and start putting together some forces for a game of Chain of Command. And I thought, since I've not played yet, I just got done kind of reading through the rules and I'm already making mistakes. But, it's a learning process. So what I'm going to do is start by kind of walking through how I would put together my force. I'm going to start with my Soviets. I'm going to try using my 20mm figures. Pretty soon I'll be with my 15mm figures. I got to order some Germans and eventually get some of their support weapons, but I actually have a lot of that in 20mm. So I'm going to be starting with 20mm. The only reason I'm going to go to 15 is just because I'm actually getting used to the smaller scale. But for now, we're going to learn the game using my 20s. Plus, this might give me an excuse to start painting, because when I got my 20mm figures, and I hadn't really painted them up because I did start switching to 15. I just happen to have a lot of 15. Well, anyway, long story short, I'll be doing my 20s. So you're going to see a lot of unpainted figures. So the first thing you're going to do is decide on a game. Now, they do have rules in here for if you are going to randomly decide a match with somebody and then build your forces from there. I already know what scenario I'm going to do. I'm going to do scenario 1 as my learning phase, my learning mission. You're going to be one platoon, and it says if you're going to divide your table here into 6 spots, and then you'll roll to see which sector you come in on, red and blue. One thing I do after I put my forces together is I'm actually going to go ahead and put dots on the bases, red and blue dots, and kind of come up with like a squad marking. So basically squad 1 will have 1 dot, and if they're the red force, it'll be 1 red dot will be first squad, second squad will have 2 red dots, that kind of a thing. And that will, I can better match up on my table. Now the game is going to be played on a 6x3, my Murphy table. The game really was built to be played on 6x4. So for the patrol, I'm not quite sure how the patrol phase is going to work out on a narrower table. I have the length of the table, but as you can see, the deployment's going to be just smack dab right across from each other. So on a smaller table, the patrol phase might be less significant than on the actual 6x4 table. We'll see. So when you're reading your scenario, it will talk about the patrol phase. So it says you roll a die 6 on a 1 or 2. You deploy your markers at point 1, a 3 or 4 at point 2, 5 or 6 on point 3, and then you choose whether you want to start the game with 3 or 4 patrol markers. Now this is a question that's come up. I know I was going to do force building, but just in my mind thinking, people have asked, is it better to play with 3 force markers, patrol markers, instead of 4? Like, what would be the benefit? And no one has really been able to answer. So if you're going to play, you might as well go with 4. That way you can maneuver around the table. I was thinking 3, if you don't have as big of a table, 3 patrol markers might be better. So maybe I'll experiment with 3 when we play. But now that I have my scenario, the reason why I want to look at the scenario first before I start putting my army together was to roll for force support table. Let me grab a die 6 real quick. Okay, what it says here, when you roll the die 6, I don't know how clear that's coming through from my iPad, but essentially you roll the 1 die 6. On a 1 or 2, it says both sides select from support list 1, amended depending on relative platoon strength ratings, which we'll look at. I'm trying to make my sides as even as possible. 3 or 4 you get from table 2, roll a 5 or 6, list 3. And it says you can't start with entrenchment, static defenses, or a preliminary barrage. So we're going to start with support list number 2. So let's go take a look at our troops. Alright, great. Now the nice thing about Soviet Union, there's not a whole lot of options. You get a tank rider platoon, or basically a rifle platoon. A rifle platoon, you can either make them green or regular. I'm going to make regular. Now their platoon force, the morale force, has a -3, I got to remember. But it does say they get 5 command dice. So that's pretty normal-ish. Now it has a platoon headquarters. It has a senior leader armed with a pistol. I have a senior leader not painted. I thought I had a painted senior leader, but I don't. So I'm going to use this gentleman here. So he's going to be the senior leader. He's like the platoon leader guy. So there's him. I'm going to set him off to the side. We'll look at the assembled force in a minute. Now it says squads 1 to 3. So I know, wow, there's not much in that platoon headquarters, just one guy. Okay. Oh yeah, let me move it up to where you can see what I'm looking at right there. So here in the Soviet Union page, my platoon headquarters has a senior leader. Now squads 1 to 3. So each squad is going to have a junior leader. So I can pick, I actually have some guys that I could probably use for this. That's the girls. I'm digging through the Plastic Soldier Company figures I've put together, and they actually had like some junior, like perfect people that would be great for junior NCOs. They don't have the weapon necessarily modeled with them, but he's got his little order satchel and whatnot. You know, it's a game of imagination, right? So he's going to be my junior. And then it says the squad itself comes with 1 light machine gun, which I actually happen to have a guy who is painted up somewhere who can use a light machine gun, but I'm going to need some more, so I'm going to have to dig out my non-painted. Here we go, I got painted. So here's one of those light machine gun guys, so we'll put him over here. Then it says it's going to have 2 crew. I guess he's going to count as one of the crew. So there's his gun. He's crew member 1. And I had in this box of mine of loosely rolling around troops, here he is. Here's his second crew member, which will be the ammo bearer guy. Okay, so the light machine gun's taken care of for that squad. Then it says 7 riflemen. Now the way I have my miniatures, I'm not going to be too picky on if they all look the same. Like if they all have helmets, don't have helmets. 1 or 2 of them might have submachine guns, just because I got to make use of the models I have. So let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Luckily, I actually have 1 squad painted, other than the junior leader who's not painted. So this will be 1 squad. I'm going to set them off to the side. So what I'm going to do, now that you see the basics of how that works, I mean, that's great. You don't have to worry so much about points and stuff. It just tells you right there, here's what your platoon for your side will consist of. So let me pause it. I'll be right back after I've put those other 2 squads together. Alright, so this is the assembled platoon that I'm going to have for the Russians. So if I have read the book correctly, I'm hoping, my platoon element, according to this, had one guy. That's the senior officer. I then have squad 1, which has the junior NCO, a machine gun element with the gun and the 2 crew members, and then 7 riflemen. So I have squad 1, squad 2, and squad 3. Then when I was looking on the support table, I actually had quite a few options, but I went ahead and I'm going to get them, let's see, I'll just put them right here. I'm going to go ahead and get them the 50mm mortar. So there's the mortar and the 2 crew members to operate it. What if I could zoom in? I don't know if I want to. You can see everything now. Maybe I shouldn't mess. Oh, focus a little bit. Yeah, alright, so we'll have the mortar team. So yeah, if I'm going to play with them often, I'm definitely going to have to finish painting all of them. Alright, so that's going to be the Russian forces. So that's their extra support weapon and bada being the platoon itself. Now I could have went with a scout, I thought about it, but I think a mortar will be more effective. Now, because we're talking about the Soviet Union here, real fast, there are two national characteristics that they have. The first one is Wrath of Gods. Essentially, it says they get a pre-game barrage, but the enemy units attempting to deploy onto the table in the first turn roll with a -1 on their die. Problem with that, the scenario 1, well, I guess I could still do that because it's not the actual pre-game barrage. So that's going to be one nice national characteristic to use against my German opponent, me. The second one they have, I can't even pronounce it, Razvedchiki. The Soviets placed much emphasis on the use of scouts. Now it says here scouts could move 2 die 6 and assume a tactical position when they're done, or a tactical stance. Normally you have to move 1 die 6 and do a tactical stance. So that would be cool if I was using a scout, but I chose a platoon or a 50mm mortar instead. So we'll see how that national characteristic works out. Anyway, that's a platoon. On paper, I'll make a note that they're regular. We'll calculate the starting force and all that stuff, force morale later, and see how that plays in. But for right now, there's my Russians. I'm going to paint the little squad markings on them for a later time and set them aside as a complete unit. And then next, we're going to go ahead and start taking a look at the German forces. So for now, thanks for checking things out. Hopefully, if I have made any more mistakes, point them out for me. That way I can get my platoon in good order, and then hopefully by the time we start the game, we'll have an appropriate amount of forces on the board. Alright, thanks everybody. Bye.